maybe we won't do that next time. Anyways, today we have another true crime episode. I'm really excited about this one because I found this one super interesting. So shout out to Netflix for these amazing recommendations I'm getting. I watched the Netflix docu-series called Killer Sally. If you haven't watched that, I highly recommend it, especially if you like my kind of recap on this case. So let's get into it. Once upon a time, Valentine's Day held a special meaning for Sally McNeil, as it marked the day of her first bodybuilding competition in 1987. Sally began her journey into bodybuilding while serving in the Marines, driven by a desire to grow stronger and better protect herself. Sally's friend told her about a renowned bodybuilder named Ray McNeil, who was eager to meet her. When they first met, Sally couldn't deny what she described as lust at first sight. Not love at first sight, but lust at first sight. They started dating and within 2 months got married. Ray quickly embraced the role of a father to Sally's 2 children from a previous marriage. Ray did have 1 daughter, and all of them ended up living together in a small house in Oceanside, California. In 1991, Ray left the Marines to pursue his dream of going pro in bodybuilding. Meanwhile, Sally remained in the Marines, working as a cook in the mess hall. Ray's hard work paid off when he won the North American Bodybuilding Championship, which catapulted him into the professional circuit. Sally had hoped that once Ray achieved his dream of going pro, his insecurities would fade, but instead it only seemed to intensify. Ray's friend, who was a gym owner and also a steroid user, began selling steroids to both Ray and Sally. Sally only was taking Anavar to help her lift heavier weights, and she really couldn't afford any much more anyways because Ray was consuming the majority of the supply of steroids. Ray took more steroids, obviously like of different brands. I'm not sure the exact, names of them. I do know that Sally only took Anavar because one, she didn't want to take anything with testosterone. She didn't want her voice to get deep or to have any of those weird side effects you get when you take steroids as a woman. So she only took that specific steroid. So also to help out, with the cost and everything, Sally frequently traveled to Tijuana where she could buy steroids without a prescription, and she would bring them back for Ray. Shantina, who was Sally's daughter, I'm gonna say their daughter because Ray basically took the father role, and Shantina and John called Ray dad. So, but they're not actually, that Shantina is not Ray's daughter. She wasn't referenced in any of this, so I don't really have any information on Ray's daughter herself, but this is just Sally's children that I'll be referencing that call him dad. Their daughter, Shantina, recalls that once her parents began using steroids, the tension between them grew, with their arguments becoming more frequent. So, to make extra money, Sally began filming wrestling videos where she would wrestle men. This was mainly due because women in bodybuilding at the time were not making the same amount of money as men would be making. So they would make significantly less. So the women bodybuilders at the time would kind of do this avenue of wrestling men, and they would make a lot more money. So that's kind of what she started to do. It reminded me of how girls do OF. I feel like this was the OF for the bodybuilders at the time, except they weren't doing anything sexual. But the men did get off on the fact that the women were choking them out and stuff with their legs and stuff and wrestling them. Ray was supportive of this as the income helped support his bodybuilding competitions and of course his steroid steroid use. So he's not gonna complain because Sally's paying for everything. You know, he didn't work, he just did bodybuilding. In 1993, Sally had left the Marines and began traveling across the US, wrestling men to earn money. At the same time, Ray qualified for the prestigious Mr. Olympia competition, but despite his efforts, he placed 15th. Sally later shared that Ray, frustrated by the outcome, took his anger out on her. As backstory on Ray's early years were filled with a lot of hardship. He was originally born in North Carolina, and he was abandoned by his mother when he was only 2 weeks old. So his aunt had taken him in, and they lived in extreme poverty. Like, there was roaches running around. It was just like they really didn't have money for food. It was really actually sad living conditions. But the aunt was like a great person, you know. She was just like helping Ray out by taking him in. She also took in another boy, and so it was Ray and this other boy that were living with the aunt, and the boy had been making Ray perform sexual acts on him. Ray's friend had described Ray as a kind and loving person, but also having a short fuse. You had to be cautious as to how you would approach him. Shantina said Ray's personality would always flip. One night, she was waiting for him to get home, and it was very late at night. Her dad used to bounce for bars, you know, like as a bouncer. And when her dad got home, he was covered in blood from head to toe, with scratches all over him. She was like, "Dad, what happened?" Like, you know, kind of freaking out. He explained to her that there were some bad guys at the bar and he had to protect himself. So he ended up blinding somebody by sticking his hands in their eyes to get away so that they didn't kill him. This was the first time that he told Shantina not to tell anybody what had happened. She even actually said that she doesn't even think her mother knows about this story. Ray's friend, who was also a bouncer with Ray at the bar, did kind of corroborate that story. Did say that he did see Ray doing really horrible things to people. Ray never got arrested because the cops knew them, and actually the guy that he stuck his fingers in their eyes did in fact end up going blind. So he wasn't lying to Shantina, like he really did that. Sally said that if Ray was ever in a bad mood, he would take it out on her and that she wouldn't tell anybody. Shantina explained that Ray would physically abuse her mother. The abuse started even back to the third day that they were married, when Sally said he punched her in the face and cracked her lip, but since Ray had apologized to her, she believed him. She didn't think that it would happen again. One time, Ray broke Sally's nose, so she had went and reported it to her first sergeant in the Marines. He had sent her to medical, you know, to get examined, and they ended up taking Ray to the brig. So they took Ray to the brig, and then they released him. She said that Ray beat her into oblivion just to get Sally to drop the charges. Sally said that she was used to violence because when she was a little girl, her stepdad would beat her up. So she kind of like just let this stuff happen, and she kind of was just used to the violence. John, which is Shantina's brother, Sally's son, said that him and Ray's relationship was very violent. He would abuse and beat him up a lot, especially when his mother was gone. One time when John was in kindergarten, he came home, and as a kid, he had like in class, it would be a smiley face if you were a good kid in school, or the teacher would put it as a frown face if you got in trouble or were being bad. So one day, John got off the bus and his smiley was upside down. you have a smiley or a sad face, to what happened at school. So John was like, well, I got in trouble for talking. So Ray got the belt and spanked him with it. He also told a story about when Ray would get mad at both of them, so himself and Shantina. Ray would bring them in a room and he would spank one of them and make the other one watch. John said that it was torturous to watch his sister get beat up and then to know that he was next. He said he really hated him and Ray was like the devil to him. Now Sally's friend, one of Sally's friends, was the only one that ever knew about the abuse between Sally and Ray. The only reason that she knew about the abuse was because she would question Sally about it when she would see Sally having like bruises or black eyes or broken nose or broken arm. She would ask her and kind of confront her on it, but Sally did not tell anybody else about the physical abuse between her and Ray. Ray's friend said that he would see bruises on Sally, but never anything physical, except the only thing that he saw physical was when Sally would get into Ray's face and push him and things like that. But he said other than that, like when those things would arise and they would start to like go at it, he would just leave. So that's all he saw on his end. He didn't see Ray doing anything to Sally, but he did see Sally putting hands on Ray. Sally went on to explain that when Ray would, they would get in fights and arguments and stuff, and Ray would want her to forgive him, he would force her to have intercourse with him, and she felt like she was being violated by that. Like she didn't want to be sexual with Ray, and he would just force it, almost like he felt like he had ownership on her and her body. In 1995, Ray and Sally had been married now for about 8 years. Sally was hoping things would get better, but unfortunately, they did not. She said the beatings got worse when the shows would come up for Ray because he was taking more steroids than normal. Sally got scared because she saw another bodybuilding couple where the husband had killed the wife, and so she kind of just like snapped out of this whole like, oh my gosh, like wait, this could be me, and so she decided that she needed to leave Ray and head east to Pennsylvania. That's where her family was at. But she didn't, unfortunately, due to the incident that happened on February 14th of 1995. Shantina tells the story that day of playing outside with her brother, and when they got back home later that day, her dad wasn't home. Sally was trying to get a hold of him, but nothing. So it ended up being really late, and he still didn't come home. So Sally thought that Ray was at a bar, so she was gonna get ready and go meet him there, see what's up. Oh, as she was getting ready and putting her makeup on, Ray comes home. They start getting in an argument, and since he was 3 days out from a show, he was loaded up on steroids. Now, this is coming from Sally's POV. Sally told Ray that he looked bad and wasn't going to place in the show, so Ray had afterwards hit her. Then she said that he started choking her, and so she got scared that he was going to kill her, so she ran into the bedroom where the shotgun was that they had, and she put 2 rounds into the shotgun. She went back, to the kitchen. She told him to get out. He was like, nope. So she shot him. At that time, Shantina comes running out of her bedroom with a baseball bat because she thought that her dad had like thrown her mother into their china cabinet, and she sees that her dad is on the ground and her mom is holding the shotgun. So Shantina starts screaming, and she's like screaming and she's crying. That ended up waking up her brother John, but John ended up just staying in the bedroom. Sally calls the police, and she tells him like, I shot my husband because he beat me up, And in the background of the police call, it's actually so sad when you hear it. It's like really, really devastating. You hear Shantina screaming in the background, crying, like literally bloody murder crying, like, dad, like, oh my gosh, my dad, like, it's really, 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 really sad. It's really, oh my gosh. When I heard it, I was like tearing up. It was so sad. Shantina, later in the interview, on the Netflix show, was saying that Ray was screaming and crying, and he was like saying why as he was down on the floor, like to Sally, like he was like, why, why. Now back, on that day, John was saying that when the police had came and they ended up leaving the house, John had to actually walk over Ray's body, and he actually had felt relief because Ray was shot. He felt good. He was like, well, now he's never gonna be able to hurt me, my sister, or my mother again. Like, he felt like, oh, like, thank God I don't have to get abused anymore. So the police obviously took all of them, Shantina, John, and Sally, to the police station. Shantina was in a room with the interrogator. She said she was just going to run out there and say, please don't argue anymore, to her parents. She was going to say, she was just like, I'm tired of it. I don't like when they argue like that. My dad's way too big to be hitting my mom. Now, Sally was in another room getting interrogated too. And Sally said that she wanted to get out of the house and Ray wouldn't let her leave. So she ran into the bedroom, got the shotgun, and wanted to originally threaten him with it. While he was in the kitchen cooking his chicken, this was when she aimed it at him. And she thinks that he came at her, and so she got scared and she shot him. Then she shot him again when he came actually after her. Interrogators also go to Sally and they're like, you haven't asked how Ray was this whole time you've been here. And this was like hours into it, like maybe 3 to 6 hours or something. It was a while, and Sally never once asked how Ray was doing. They're like, you really injured him, and you haven't asked how he is, if he's okay. And that's when they tell her that Ray did not make it, and Sally realizes, oh my God, I murdered him. So she starts bawling, and she's like, oh my gosh, this is not how I wanted it to be. I just wanted him to just stop hitting me. So she was arrested for murder, after this. Prosecution looked at Sally's behavior, and he was like, this does not seem like a lady who felt remorse. He didn't think she was a fearful, battered woman that she claimed to be. He talked about how when detectives had originally stepped out of the room and left Sally in the room, Sally just wrapped herself up in a blanket, laid on the floor, and took a nap. He's like, that is not something that a person not guilty of a crime, especially a murder, would do. Like, they would never do that. Defense had said that it was hard to prove that she was the subject of battery because Sally wasn't really like the ordinary mom. They had to prove that Sally was a victim of domestic abuse. Now, the reason why she didn't kind of fit the description of an ordinary mom was because she was a bodybuilder. She's big, she's buff, she lifts heavy weights. She was even seen squatting Ray. She can hold her own as a woman. So they were like, this is gonna be a little bit harder than normal cases. Sally was actually released on bail from the guys that she used to wrestle. So remember how she used to do all those wrestling videos with all those guys? They came together and paid for her bail of $100,000. Shout out to them. They said, no, we got our girl. They're like, no, we got her. We're bailing her out. Period. At the time of death, Ray had 5 steroids in his system, and Sally only had 1 steroid. They never used the steroid concept in the case, though. They never kind of played off the steroid concept. was really upset by how the story was playing out. Ray felt like they were trying to make it look like, oh my gosh, there's a steroid black guy, the big black guy that attacked his wife, so he deserved what he got, and that Ray attacked her. And that's like quotes from what he had said in his interview on the Netflix show. He was like, this is not the real story. This is not actually what was going on. The prosecutor had interviewed other people that may have known Sally, and everyone that they interviewed described Sally as being a really violent person. They were either victims of her violence or had been witnesses to it. One guy told the story where Sally and Ray had gotten into a fight, and Ray was deciding, like, I'm gonna leave Sally. So Sally went on the balcony. She threw dumbbells down on his car. She said, boop, 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 boop. She was tossing them on his car. Ray was in the car. Like, she basically, I was like, you're not going anywhere now. Where you about to go? She's like, where you about to go? Yeah, you might as well come back inside. She's like, come back inside, because you're not going anywhere. I just threw dumbbells on your car. Like, what now? What you about to do? Yeah, you gotta come inside. It's actually not funny, but like, girl, what the heck were you doing? That is so toxic. That's crazy. Like, you could have hurt him. They ended up even obtaining Sally's service record in the Marines, and Sally had numerous cases of being violent. Like, numerous. Being disrespectful, being violent, like, talking back, like, all this stuff. Like, she had it in her cases. John, Sally's son, even explains that his mother is aggressive. He's like, yeah, my mother is aggressive. He told a story about his mom telling him that that she wears rings so that when she punches someone, it's gonna leave a dent in their head. Okay. Alright. Yeah, that sounds aggressive to me. Another story that John had told was one day, a man had slapped John in the face, and I forget why. I forget in what part. Like, I don't know if John was like mean to his kid or something, so the man slapped John in the face. I don't know actually the background of it, but all I know is this man, grown man, slapped John in the face, right? So when Sally came home, he told his mom, and so she grabbed both of her kids by the arms, and she's like, come on, we're walking to this guy's house. She walked her kids to this guy's house. She boom, 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 boom. She's banging on the door, right? She's like, open up. She didn't actually say open up, but she was like, and the guy opens up. The man didn't even get to speak a word. He didn't even get to say hello. He didn't get to say nothing. She immediately starts attacking him. She's swinging on him. She's beating this man up. So, definitely sounds aggressive, yeah. Ray's friend then talks about how Sally's beaten up the mailman before as well. But Sally's like, well, I was only doing this because I was acting out due to what was happening to me in my home. Like, that's the reason why. She was like, if someone threatens to hit me, I'm gonna hurt them before they hurt me. John did explain that his mother was violent with Ray as well, and most of it was around infidelity, so like cheating and stuff. Now, another story even was this guy had, saw Sally at a bodybuilding competition. This girl was all up in Ray's face, like talking to him or whatever. They were probably flirting with each other, who knows. So Sally had told the girl, like, hey, get away from my husband. And the girl's like, F you, Sally, I'm gonna do what I want. So I was like, oh no, you're not with my husband, honey. She's like, She grabbed the girl by the hair, she yanked her, she started punching her, like she was beating this girl up, and she actually did get suspended from bodybuilding for this. I think for about a year she got suspended. Sally described that she wanted to break this girl's nose just like she got her nose broken, and she wanted to make it to where this girl, like, nobody wanted her anymore. Like, she kind of wanted to probably mess up her face so that no guy would want her. Ray's friend actually was explaining that he didn't believe Ray liked Sally the same way that Sally loved him. Like, Sally's whole world kind of revolves around Ray, and Ray wasn't the same way. He explained that Ray was seeing another woman that was very serious. He really loved this woman. Sally actually knew about this woman and had threatened to beat her up if she came to the gym, because the gym was where Ray and her had officially met, and they would see each other at the gym. Sally knew about it. Oh, she sure did. She called her up and she's like, you better not come to this gym because I'm gonna beat you up. Ray's friend had said that Ray was planning on leaving Sally for this woman, and Ray's friend was like, you need to be careful, like, you know how Sally can be. And Ray's friend knew that Sally had a gun at the home, and he believed that, you know, something bad could happen if Ray actually admitted that he was going to leave Sally for this other woman. He was like, don't do it, you know, like, I don't have a good feeling about it, like, don't do it. Ray's friend believed that Ray had went to the other woman's house that evening on Valentine's Day. Prosecutors, I think, believed the same thing, and they also believed that Ray was gonna break up with her that, like, around that time, maybe that day, maybe, you know, coming up or whatever. They believed that Ray was gonna break up with her, and since he was having an affair, they felt like this was premeditated murder for Sally. They described her as being in a jealous rage and murdering Ray over it. Prosecutors had described the forensics, where Sally had initially claimed that Ray was beating her up, but forensics had told a different story. Looking at the autopsy report, Ray had been shot twice. He was shot with a shotgun at approximately 8 feet in his abdomen. That's when he fell, and he was shot in the face, mouth area. The issue of the reload was a critical part of the case. Sally's original statement was that after she had shot Ray by the kitchen, he came at her. She reloaded and turns around, shoots him immediately while he was standing up. But if she actually did that, the expended shotgun shell from the initial shot would be in the living room. But it wasn't. It was back in the bedroom where the ammo was. So she actually went into the back bedroom, got another shell, loaded it, went back into the living room while Ray was down, and shot him in the face. To prove this, there was a lamp in the living room at the end of like a table, and the blood splatter was underneath the lampshade, which would show and prove that Ray was laying down, and when she shot him, the blood splatted up. If he was standing up, it would be on the outside of the lampshade because the blood would splatted that way, you know. Defense was still going with the strategy of battered woman syndrome. This kind of just started getting, you know, more popularized at this time as well. So it was still like newer to, you know, the courts and everything. Defense ended up getting a forensic psychologist to conduct a full psychological evaluation of Sally. The lady actually described Sally as being a lot smaller and shorter than she thought. Sally had a hard time talking about issues, especially around sexual abuse. And she said that Sally was really like other battered women. Shantina and Sally's friend had testified for Sally. Shantina was asked about what she heard, and she told them that her dad was choking her mom. They asked, well, how do you know that? And she said, well, whenever my dad chokes her out, she makes these sounds. She was, you know, in the courtroom explaining the sounds. she said she's seen him choke her, and here is her choker. She said she's even banged on their door before to try to get him off of her. John had wished that he could have testified so that he could have told the truth of the torture that went on in the house, but unfortunately he wasn't able to. They felt like he was too young, so they never did that. Sally then testified in her own defense in her trial, but it backfired because she got real rigid. She was showing no emotion. She was answering yes sir, no sir. Like, it did not help her case at all. So also, since she testified, it also allowed for other evidence to be allowed in the trial. The prosecutor had asked her, like, hey, you go by the name of killer Sally McNeil, isn't that true? She's like, no. So since she denied it, it allowed in a poster of her to be allowed in the courtroom now. This poster showed her wrestling business, promotion for her wrestling business, with her posing with a gun. I'm almost positive it was a shotgun too. And on the name, like the header, was Killer Sally McNeil. So this was not helping her case at all. It was not helping her look good. Sally was found not guilty of the crime of first-degree murder, but guilty of the crime of second-degree murder. Now, second-degree murder is the intent to kill someone unlawfully. The jury did not believe that Sally was in danger. They believed she just got the gun and she just killed him. No questions about it. Sally was sentenced to 19 years to life. And during the trial, Sally did express regret for her actions, but maintained that she had been pushed to the brink by years of abuse and violence from her husband. Sally had served over 25 years in prison. However, in 2020, her case was re-examined. The California Department of Corrections granted her parole, acknowledging the significant psychological trauma she had endured during the marriage. Sally was released from prison in 2020 after serving more than 25 years of her sentence. After her release, Sally's case continued to spark debate about domestic violence and how it is handled in the legal system. Many people saw her as a victim who had acted out of fear and desperation, while others believed she had overstepped the boundaries of self-defense. What do you guys think? Let me know in the comments below. Don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe. I'm still looking for these family names. Please leave them in the comments below. Give me some ideas. I would love something. Something with Jeej or something. That would be really cute. So definitely let me know if you guys have any of those down below. If you have any specific cases you would like me to cover, let me know in the comments below. I've kind of just been picking random ones that I find interesting and been doing that. So if I don't see anything, I'll kind of just do the same thing. Hopefully you guys enjoyed this one of Killer Sally. I thought it was super interesting. I love going to the gym, so it kind of was like interesting because they do bodybuilding and I'm pretty intrigued with bodybuilding, so I was like, oh, it was kind of cool. Thank you for all the love and support and kind words you always have in the comments. I appreciate it so much. This is Jeej.